Imagine a world split in two, a world of competing ideas, of different dreams for the future. This was our world in the mid-20th century. Two great superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, stood on opposite sides of a deep divide. This was the Cold War. The starting pistol for this grand race was fired in 1957. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik, a small metallic sphere. It did little more than orbit our planet and beep, but that beep echoed around the globe. President John F. Kennedy understood the stakes. In 1961, he stood before the world and made a bold promise. He declared that America would commit itself to achieving the goal, before the decade was out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. The year is 1969. The world holds its breath. On a hot July day in Florida, a colossal rocket, the Saturn V, stands ready. It is a machine of unimaginable power, the product of hundreds of thousands of minds working together. Inside its tiny capsule at the very top sit three men: Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. They are the chosen few, the ones who will carry the hopes of a nation, and indeed the world, on their shoulders. The countdown reaches zero. Fire and thunder erupt from the base of the rocket. It trembles, it strains, and then it rises. Slowly at first, then with unstoppable force, it climbs into the blue sky, defying gravity itself. Then, a calm voice breaks the silence. The Eagle has landed. Those four words signal the fulfillment of a promise, the realization of an ancient dream. For the first time in history, humans have arrived on another celestial body. On July 20, 1969, an estimated 650 million people were glued to their television sets. A ladder extended from the lunar module. A booted foot descended step by step. Then, Neil Armstrong set foot on the lunar soil. He spoke words that would be etched into history forever. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. The world erupted in celebration. Strangers hugged in the streets. Tears of joy were shed. The photograph of Buzz Aldrin standing on the moon with Neil Armstrong reflected in his helmet's visor is one of the most famous pictures ever taken. It captures the loneliness and the grandeur of the moment. Another powerful image is Earthrise, taken during the Apollo 8 mission. It shows our home planet rising above the lunar horizon, a vibrant, living world alone in the vast darkness. This single photograph changed our perspective forever. But even in this moment of global unity, a different story began to take shape. It started not with a roar, but with a whisper, a seed of doubt. Was it all too perfect? Too cinematic? Could we really have pulled it off? One of the first things they pointed to was the American flag. In the video, the flag appears to ripple and wave as the astronauts plant it. But how can a flag wave when there is no wind on the moon? To the skeptics, this was proof positive. Another key area of focus was the lighting in the lunar photographs. The shadows, they claimed, were all wrong. On the moon, the only light source is the sun. Therefore, all shadows should be perfectly parallel to each other. But in some photos, the shadows seem to fall in different directions. Furthermore, where were the stars? In all the photos taken from the lunar surface, the sky is a pitch-black void. Surely, without an atmosphere to obscure them, the stars should be brilliantly visible. For every question raised by the skeptics, there is a clear, logical, and scientific explanation. So let's start with the waving flag. There is no wind on the moon, that is true. But the flag was not waving in a breeze. It was rippling because of the actions of the astronauts. What about the strange shadows? The idea that they should all be perfectly parallel is an oversimplification. The moon's surface is not a flat, featureless plane. It's covered in hills, craters, and gentle slopes. Perspective is everything. The mystery of the missing stars is also easily solved. It really just comes down to basic photography. The lunar surface, bathed in direct, unfiltered sunlight, is incredibly bright. To capture a clear picture of these bright subjects, the camera's shutter speed had to be very fast and its aperture set very small. And the Van Allen belts? NASA was well aware of this radiation hazard. The Apollo spacecraft traveled through the belts at very high speed, passing through the most intense parts in less than an hour. The metal hull of the command module provided significant shielding. To understand this debate fully, we must listen to the voices on both sides. One modern skeptic might say something like, "You look at the photos and you just get a feeling. It feels fake. The government lies about so many things. Why would this be any different?" On the other side stand the overwhelming majority of scientists, engineers, and historians. Dr. Phil Plait states, "Every single one of the claims made by the hoax proponents is demonstrably false. They rely on a misunderstanding of physics, light, and photography. The astronauts themselves have faced these questions for decades. When confronted by a conspiracy theorist who demanded he swear on a Bible that he walked on the moon, Aldrin, then in his 70s, famously punched the man. While not a scientific rebuttal, it was a deeply human reaction. Beyond debunking the myths, there is a mountain of tangible, verifiable evidence that proves we went to the moon. One of the most powerful examples is the retroreflectors. For over 50 years, observatories on Earth have been firing powerful lasers at these reflectors and getting a signal back. Then there are the moon rocks. Over 6 missions, the Apollo astronauts brought back 382 kilograms of lunar material. These rocks are not like any rocks found on Earth. They are completely lacking in water and show evidence of formation in a low-gravity, no-atmosphere environment. The conspiracy theory requires a level of secrecy that is simply impossible. The Apollo program employed over 400,000 people. To believe the landings were faked, you must believe that every single one of these individuals has kept the secret perfectly for more than half a century. And let us not forget our rivals. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union had the most to gain from exposing an American hoax. If there was any hint of a fake, the Soviets would have shouted it from the rooftops. Instead, their own official state media acknowledged the American achievement. The story of humanity and the moon is not over. NASA's Artemis program is poised to take us back. This time, the goal is not just to plant a flag and collect some rocks. The goal is to stay. Artemis aims to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. High-definition cameras on new lunar orbiters have already taken clear photographs of the Apollo landing sites. You can see the descent stages of the lunar modules, the scientific equipment left behind, and even the faint tracks left by the astronauts' boots and rovers. When we choose to reject overwhelming evidence in favor of conspiracy, we weaken our ability to make sense of the world. Evidence-based thinking is a fundamental skill for navigating our complex modern society. We must empower the next generation to be discerning consumers of information. The Artemis program is not an endpoint, it is the beginning of our journey to becoming a multiplanetary species. Ultimately, the story of Apollo is a story of human potential. It is a reminder that when we trust in science, when we collaborate, and when we dare to dream big, we can achieve the seemingly impossible. Believing we went to the moon is not an act of blind faith. It is an act of acknowledging the power of evidence and celebrating a moment when humanity was at its very best. It is a truth worth defending. The future depends on their ability to separate the signal from the noise.